Hi everyone. I have a new story today and it is called Chrysanthemum. That's hard to say. Can you say that with me? Chrysanthemum. Does anybody know what a chrysanthemum is? A chrysanthemum is a type of flower. It is a hard word to say though, isn't it? It's got a lot of letters in it too, right? Let's count the letters together. Count with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 letters in that word. Can you imagine if your name had 13 letters? Oh, it would take a long time every time you had to write your name on your paper, right? Maybe you would use a nickname. But this little mouse, this little girl mouse, her name is Chrysanthemum. And this story is by Kevin Hanks. And Kevin Hanks has written a lot of stories using these little mice as characters. And he's got great stories. So if you belong to a library and you can get books online or you can search them on the internet, you might look for some more stories by Kevin Hanks if you like this one. Chrysanthemum. Oh, I wanted to point one other thing out to you. Take a look near the middle of the word, chrysanthemum. There's a word hiding in here, and I bet all of you know that word. T-H-E. What does that spell? You're right, the chrysanthemum. There we go. Oh, she just looks like a little baby there, huh? The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. She's perfect, said her mother. Absolutely, said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. Her name must be everything she is, said her mother. Her name must be absolutely perfect, said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew, and when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. She doesn't seem to mind having a long name to have to write. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect. And then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile. She ran all the way. Hooray, said Chrysanthemum, school. But when Mrs. Chud took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. Look at all the other kids in her class. Their names are all very short. Don, Eve, Lois, Al, Les, Kay, Max, Sue, Bill, Pat, Tom, Sam, Ken, Joe, Rita, Victoria, Chrysanthemum. It's so long, said Joe. Look, Joe's name is right here. J-O. That's pretty short. It scarcely fits on your name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. You're named after a flower. Chrysanthemum wilted. What do you think that means, she wilted? Kind of got sad. She wasn't feeling too good about herself anymore. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chud that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. We already knew that, right? Because we counted. That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria explained. And she's right, because the alphabet has 26 letters. And half of 26 is 13, because 13 plus 13 would make 26. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chud. Now put your head down. I don't think her teacher appreciated that very much. If I had a name like yours, I'd change it, Victoria said, as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long. It scarcely fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish, said her mother. Your name is beautiful, and precious, and priceless, and fascinating, and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect, said her father. So they reassured her. They made her feel better because she wasn't feeling very good about her name anymore when she came home from school. She didn't really like the other kids teasing her about it. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. Parcheesi is a board game. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria, as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. Girls aren't being very good friends, are they? They're teasing her and she doesn't like it. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, a chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chud. Now put your head down. I just cannot believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. Neither can I, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I even look like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me. Oh, pish, said her mother. They're just jealous. And envious and begrudging and discontented and jaundiced, said her father. Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her father. Well, her parents are pretty good about making her feel better, right? Building her back up. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 the flowers seemed to say. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, their music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. It means they couldn't believe it, so they didn't know what to say. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. That's when you sing and your voice goes up higher and higher and higher, or then it goes down lower and lower and lower. That's called a scale in music. Then she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. Joe was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger. and Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. A daisy is another kind of flower. Chrysanthemum's a daisy, chrysanthemum's a daisy, Joe, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. "What's so humorous?" asked Mrs. Twinkle. "Chrysanthemum," was the answer. "Her name is so long," said Joe. "It scarcely, that means barely, fits on her name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "She's named after a flower." "My name is long," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It is?" said Joe. "My name would scarcely fit on a name tag," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It would," said Rita, pointing. "And," said Mrs. Twinkle, "I'm named after a flower too." "You are?" said Victoria. "Yes," said Mrs. Twinkle. "My name is Delphinium." Delphinium is another kind of a flower. Delphinium Twinkle, and if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it's absolutely perfect. You can see she's got a baby in her tummy there under her dress. Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She was so excited. She blushed, she beamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Look how good she's feeling about herself now. She's giving herself a hug. Joe, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. Means they were a little bit jealous now. "Call me Marigold," said Joe. "I'm Carnation," said Rita, pointing. "My name is Lily of the Valley," said Victoria. Marigold, Carnation, and Lily of the Valley are all flower names. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. So I think her music teacher helped her. Epilogue, that means what happens when the story's over. So after this, overall, the class musical was a huge success. Chrysanthemum was absolutely perfect as a daisy. Victoria made the only mistake. She completely forgot her lines as the Dainty Fairy Queen. So when they did a play, Victoria couldn't remember what she was supposed to say. Chrysanthemum thought it was wildly funny, and she giggled throughout the entire dance of the flowers. Eventually, Mrs. Twinkle gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and of course, she named her Chrysanthemum. You're right. I hope you like this story of Chrysanthemum. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.